Today on the Ever Onward Podcast, we have Matt Todd. He is the owner and podcaster that runs the Ranch Podcast. If any of you have not heard Matt, you should go to any of your podcast outlets and follow the Ranch Podcast. I am a regular listener of Matt's podcast. He is a transplant actually to Idaho just a few years ago, but you wouldn't guess that. Since arriving here, he puts out multiple podcasts a week on all the subjects that I love following. Idaho life, everything you can go all the way from politics, local politics with your local city government to county politics to state politics. He hits it all. He has guests on from both sides. I love his energy. I love the way he listens to people and really teases out the issues of our day. In a population in a state that's growing so much, it's just great to have someone like Matt doing this service. I love it, and I'm very excited to have him on this month as my co-host. This month, we were going to have one podcast where we kind of talk about the session and do an intro. It'll be followed by having Scott Bedke on, and then Mike Moyle, and then finally Kelly Anthon. A lot of our state leadership. Can't wait to explore these interviews with Matt this month, and thank you for listening.
Tommy Ahlquist, God bless you, sir. You're back.
Buddy, I just need a little more of that energy, that Matt energy. Sprinkle it all over.
Just pixie dust.
I love it. Well, you've been cranking out so much right now. I told you I'm fanboy. I listen to all of it. I think it's great.
You. Yeah.
It's great, but you're working hard.
I
asked you last week, I said, because we were talking about government efficiency, and I said, if the government were running the Ranch Podcast, how many employees would you have? And you said like
5.
It's like,
you're
working your butt off, man.
Oh yeah, but it's worth it. It's worth it. Like, first off, who's in my 6? Like, if I stop, who's picking up the slack?
I love
like,
it.
Who's spanning the distance from all the way right, all the way left, everyone in between, like rooting out?
You know what? I rushed in here.
Yeah.
Been, running late, so I haven't been able to tell you something. But what I want to tell you is, like, I love listening to it. And for those of you out there that don't listen faithfully, you will hear all sides of everything. Half the time I'm working out in the morning, because that's when I usually listen to you, and I want to jump through my earphones and like I disagree. Like, I'm like, that is so stupid, but that's what it's about. It's about hearing all sides of an issue and learning things you don't know, and I think it's so good. You're filling a void that no one else could do. No one has the energy you have. Thank you. Thanks for what you do, man.
Of course, but what you really have to realize is some of the times I want to jump out of the headphones and scream. Like, I don't think people realize it's not like I have a guest on. I may not agree. What do? Do you tell them to shut up?
No.
Do you say stop talking? It's like, what do you do?
But what part of life, and I think of some of the best experiences I've had, whether I'm on a board or with companies I've run, is you want to hear all the different opinions.
Sure.
You want to be challenged. You want to say, hey, there's a different way to look at this.
Right.
Whether it be infrastructure or healthcare or growth.
Right.
I listened to Carrie this morning, and I actually like her, but my gosh, I'm like, what the hell? I mean, like, there's just so many different things and the way people see things. So I don't know. I think it's good. I think it's so good to hear all sides of an issue, and we do have a lot of challenges. We have a lot of opportunity, but that's life. And experiencing it in a way where you're hearing all these things, I think it's wonderful. So thanks for what you do. I know you're working, especially now with the session starting. You're working so hard.
Dude, I got 9 lined up on Monday.
Oh my goodness.
9,
well, I know we're doing
9. Yeah, it's going to be great.
So part of what we're doing is Matt has been kind enough for my little podcast that we've been doing for several years, but we're going to do themes this year. And this year we're gonna release one that we do, and then we're gonna interview. I think Monday we have Bedke, Moyle, and Anthon lined up.
Yes,
back to back to back.
Yes.
After you, it sounds like you have 6 before that.
So it's gonna be. We're gonna end on the best.
I'm buying the coffee for you,
God
Matt.
Bless it.
We'll get you pumped up. But I think it's just really, really nice for me and for our listeners to hear what's going on, because these sessions matter.
Right.
They matter. And you have people that come to town, they come in with some really good ideas, and then depending on what the pressures are, and I did one with Governor Little, but you think about, we have this beautiful state in the middle of this country, but you have global pressures, you have pressures in the United States, and we have our own pressures, budgetary changes, and then you have all the other stuff that comes up, right?
Sure.
So for the average listener out there, having a source to go to listen to what's going on and having these guests on and trying to follow it in the media and knowing what's true and what's not, man, it's a crazy time.
It's a wild, and again, thank you for the invitation to do this with you. I love every second of it, and I love it because it actually, when you get into the depth of what these people are doing, what the legislators are doing, as a private citizen outside of politics, and I've never been engaged in politics, but now I'm like legislative adjacent.
You are now.
No, right. I didn't know what the government did, and I would be upset about things, or like I'd hear things on the news, I'd get taken by the narratives. I wouldn't know. Now it's like, oh my God, how do you guys do all of this? Yeah. Like the detail that they have to go into, the actual functional programs. Here's one. Somebody hit me up just on the way here. They're like, would you be interested in the Elmore County commissioner? I'm like, I mean, sure. Like, why? Like, what's going on? Like, well, the aquifer, mountain home, all these things, 20 years from now, it's going to be dry, like this whole population. Plus we have ag, we have all these things, like full send, man. Now, this is a problem of recharging an aquifer under this growing area of our state. Plus Boise's moving east, right? They're pushing out that way. It's like, if you don't have water out there, this is going to be a gigantic problem. And then if you pull into relief of last year, the argument over the $30 million for water research ongoing, you're like, oh, yeah. So they're trying to figure out how to keep this community alive, because the aquifer that you will never see with your own two eyes that exists under the earth, that thing's drying up. And someone has to figure that out. And guess what? The people in Mountain Home, God bless them, but like they're likely not hydrologists by trade, and like they can't reroute water or build infrastructure like that.
And that's why I love you hit so many different things, right? And if you think of, you just brought up water, but you talk about all the things you could do on water, power, your series on nuclear, like where are we headed with power, roads, infrastructure. You think about growth, and then you go over to the social issues. Then you go to education and healthcare. There's just so many things. And here's my take on the session. I'm helping this year. I've got a couple passion projects, so I've been lucky enough to be very involved with for a few years. And then now I'm very involved because we're trying to get some legislation through this session. I'm usually not that involved, but when it's an issue that I really love, so I've been calling legislators. I called like 40 of them last week. Yeah. But just to talk to him about it. But I think by and large, we have really, really good people. Most of these, and I have this, you know, how people have like these, first of all, I was an ER doc for a long time, so I have 48,000 patients. So when you go in a room, you kind of can like pretty quickly, you have to get pretty good at like saying, okay,
what's going on with this person?
And you have to make some really quick kind of triage assessments. Sure. And I think in today's politician, for me, I kind of get a pretty good feel. Are they authentic? Are they genuine? Are they here for the right reason? Are they a listener? Are they a learner? Are they, you know, how are they studying the issues? Because there's all these issues facing them, and I kind of make my own assessment. And then I think you've got these over here that may be a little bit more, you may call it politically savvy. You may call it, you know,
they're operators.
They're operators, and they're here for different reasons. And I think you got a little of both. And listen, we all see the world that way, right? I think the hypocrisy the hypocrisy of all hypocrisies is not to say we're all self-interested in something, right? We kind of are. We have the things we care about
naturally,
and over time we change our minds. But I really love being around people that are intelligent, study the issue, try to grab the data on whatever the issue is, and then they're willing to listen to all sides and get through it. And I think we've got a lot of those in the legislature, people that really want to be here and do the right thing. Then the question is, how do they get their information? How are they influenced by politics and what the issues are of the time? And then at the end of this, you know, in medicine, we have the Hippocratic Oath, which is first do no harm.
Yeah.
And that's my thought going into these sessions. It's like, okay, I know there's this compulsion to like do another 300 bills every session, but first do no harm. Do we need this, right? Do we need more legislation? Because the nature of government is always to grow. That's why I enjoy, I think if you look at Little, what he's done on some of the regulations that he cut in his first term was fantastic. You know, sometimes you have to take this roll back and say, hey, do we really need all this? But anyway, I'm rambling.
No. I actually really appreciate, especially the last point. Like we could say, we could be very charitable and say the personality types in the legislature is reflective of the general population. Now, we would want it to be the best. Some people say it's the worst, but let's just say, hey, man, they're average people. the problem that you run into, these are 2-year terms, and these are not full-time politicians. So these people have jobs in construction and teaching, engineering, farming, all of these different things. So they're here for 3 months. And I can tell you, as somebody who has tried to learn as much as humanly possible about Idaho every single day for years, I do not know how in a 2-year time frame, these people, when they have other jobs, could come in, learn about forestry, learn about water, learn about all of these different nuances and keep it all straight. And then even look at the bills that come presented to them. They're like, okay, I'm supposed to assess this. Like, I think a lot of people have a criticism of we need to get rid of lobbyists, get money out of politics. And yeah, hey, look, I don't like the idea that you could buy someone to come in and like advocate for your thing, and it may not be best for Idaho. But dude, if you don't have Sam Parrott, the sugar beet queen, coming in to explain to you how Canada was super saturating their molasses product, shipping it into the United States, refining out the extra sugar, and then selling that to avoid taxes. If you don't have that person helping you understand how that's affecting the Idaho sugar beet farmers, how are you going to figure that out? Like, it's too much information.
Matt, what a great point. I mean, it just, and then the sugar beet lobbyist is going to be advocating for them, but that's where the education is going to come. But then do our legislators or whoever's listening to the argument have the counter? What's the counter? What's the truth? Right. Whether it be the hospital association on Medicaid expansion, or whether it be, the General Contractors Association on construction. Right. I'm a developer, right? I'm kind of both. I've been in healthcare. I've been all over, and I have my own self-interest. So I want to see both sides of an issue, but I also want to win, and I want my thing. And there's all of this balance that's going on. I don't know how they do it. I
have a lot of sympathy for them after that.
I've been all over and everything is 2 years. So if you think about it, we're on an on-year cycle this year for the election. Right. They're always in election mode. So especially on an on-year, how many of these bills you're going to see in the next few weeks are just to increase their Republican bona fides going into election? I heard a horror story. I've been to a couple of receptions this week. And someone told me a story this week about some nutty legislation, just crazy stuff. And
come on, what was it? You got to tell me.
I can't even say it because it was so crazy. But behind closed doors, this legislator said, hey, I just need to get it to here so I know it's going to get killed, but I want to be able to go back to my constituents.
I fought for this.
I fought for this.
I fought for you.
Yeah. So how much of it is that and how much of it is real? But where I was going with it is, I've always been like a term limit guy, but sometimes it's nice to have the adults in the room that have been there for a while, that have been educated, whether it be water or healthcare or whatever, that are kind of able to become that senior statesman to say, no, I've been here long enough that I saw when Medicaid was expanded. And I know what they were telling me when Medicaid expanded. And I've seen what's happened. Some of that history is important as you're making new laws and adjusting, because the things change, right?
Right.
And instead you have this, I listen to some of these arguments and I'm like, well, that's not true. What you're best at is rewriting history, because that's not what happened when it came through. But that only comes with some time and wisdom and experience. So anyway, I think it's going to be fascinating to do our interviews. I can't wait. I think Bedke is one of those guys that's been around a long time. And I remember meeting with him when he's speaker over several issues over the years, and now as lieutenant governor going into, he'll be running again. But he's got a great perspective on a lot of things. That'll be fun. I think Mike Moyle, the guy is the guy who's running stuff down there now, and he is savvy and he knows what he wants, and he is. I like Mike. I think Mike does a great job. There's a lot of people who don't like Mike, and that's because Mike is really good at what he does, and I think he goes into these things having an agenda of what he wants done. And then Kelly, Anthon, I think is one of the greatest guys out there. Every conversation I've had with him on any issue, it goes a mile deep, mile wide. The guy's got a depth of knowledge. He studies the heck out of things. So that'll be fun.
Listen, I'm really excited. The other thing, I appreciate the willingness that you have to take of your free time to do your show. And I've been thinking about this a lot. We need more of you and me, because what we really need, I think, to get ourselves out of the hole we find ourselves in America is expert citizens that have a capacity to communicate. right? And I'm not saying I'm expert in anything. You obviously have expertise in medicine and development and things like this, but it's like we need those people who are trying to communicate effectively at scale to help people understand and have background so the general populace can assess, okay, I actually have a little information about this now. And with this information, what do I think about this law? Because if you don't have that, you can't rely on the news stations. You can't rely on newspapers. Like it's some of these issues are hyper complex. And in the medium that we both play in, it's like, if you have a 45-minute podcast or a half-hour podcast, tell me how else you could get all that information packaged and consumed.
And you're an expert at this because you've been doing this long enough. Long format cuts through BS.
Yeah.
It does.
You maybe got 5-10 minutes and then
it does.
Gloves are off.
It really does. Because you can have your talking points and do an interview or whatever, but when you get into a 45-minute, an hour-long discussion, it cuts through BS on who you are, I think. Right. It cuts through BS on your authenticity. And it also cuts through BS on kind of how deep you may know an issue. There's no hiding from longer format. And I think that's why people are eating it up. I go back even, and I'm getting old now, man, I'm really old, but I think of how I consumed my information before and how I consume it now. It's totally different.
Totally different.
I mean, I have my list of, and it's so convenient now because it's just up next, right? And I just have my daily thing and it keeps me educated and going. And long format is the wave of the future because it's authentic. When I listen to someone on your show,
right,
I really feel like I understand that person, or at least where they're coming from, right? In a really unique way.
And it's an interesting problem because anybody could carry on a conversation 45 minutes. One of the first, when I started getting into podcasting 5-6 years ago, I was really trying to understand trust your gut a little bit, but also try to understand why things don't resonate. It's one thing to say hey, I don't enjoy listening to this, but it's why? For instance, I had Miguel from the Associated Taxpayers of Idaho on yesterday. It was 45 minutes. We're laughing the whole time. Having this, and we're talking about tax code in Idaho, conformity, and we're having a great time. It's okay, why though, right? And I learned this lesson. A friend of mine, Ralph, was on a podcast, and he sent it to me. This 2019. He sends it to me, and it's Ralph, who's this big enterprise sales pipeline trainer, and first off, 4 hosts, and I was like 3-4 hosts, why do you have 3 or 4 hosts? Everybody wants the attention. It's on Zoom. I'm like, okay, I don't like this. And they had these questions. One was, hey, Ralph, how do you have a wife and kids? How do you work so much, right? Canned question, totally fine. And Ralph says, well, I lean into my faith a lot, and my wife, Kathe, she's great. And I love my boys and, just try to work hard. Okay, Ralph, what about, I was like, wait a minute. A lot of people work hard. A lot of people implode working hard. Yeah. Ralph happens to be Catholic. The actual next question should have been, hey man, when you say your faith, what does being Catholic have to do with you working 80 hours a week? How do you lean on that? Yeah. What insights do you glean? What do you mean? Right? And a lot of times when people are working a lot, they say their wife is an imposition to that because she's mad. How is it that your wife has seen, what is that? And it really made me realize, look, long form, when we say long form, we just talk about a time frame. But in reality, what you actually want is someone that's listening to the answers.
Yes.
And if they say, wait, that doesn't make sense, that's the exchange you need to have. Don't just be well, I got to get to this next question, so we got to get there.
Yeah. I know how you do it because I do it similarly. I used to prep and I don't anymore. I just don't.
Let it go.
Because I stopped using it. Because you start going and you're like, that's interesting. And if it's interesting to me, it's probably going to be interesting to a listener. And if it's not interesting to me, then, sometimes I fuddle through them. But if I'm not but
if it's not interesting to you, how could you possibly ask the listener? That needs to be the number one. And ultimately, that's what makes your show your show. Yeah. Because if it's your interest, then at least it has that flavor.
Every year I go through this thing because everyone's busy. I know everyone's busy, but by the time you put it into everything else you're doing, so I always go through this thing. Okay, am I going to do it next year? And this year I'm like, I'm going to do it this year, but we're going to try something different. We're going to do a monthly. Every month we'll have a topic and a co-host.
Yeah.
So my first month I had Andy Scoggin. Have you had Andy on your show?
Scoggin?
Oh, yeah.
I've had Bruce Skog.
So
who's Andy Scoggin?
Andy Scoggin is Idaho's Renaissance man. This dude is
great.
He was on the State Board of Education. He was a original Albertsons LLC guy.
Oh.
He owns I think he owns like 10 booming businesses right now in town.
Great.
He's on every nonprofit board you can think of. Anyway, he's got me going right now because every morning he wakes up and studies 3 languages as part of his morning routine.
I can't with people. I can't talk to him.
But
don't give him my number. I can't talk to him.
But it's all true.
It's going to make me itch.
But it's all true. But I want, I had him on with my first one, and then you'll be my co-host for the second month, and each month I'll have a co-host, and it's kind of fun too to have someone else because it's fun to have someone else in the room asking questions, and you learn from them. It's great. Yeah. I've really, again, I'm your fan guy, so I'll tell you, it's been fun getting to know you. I think you're a unique character, man. You've got an energy that just doesn't stop, and because I listen to almost all your shows, I love the energy you bring and the topics that are getting out there that otherwise would not see the light of day that are important to us.
What specifically are you talking about? Because what I wanted to ask you next is, there's a lot of criticism of government with capital G, the state, capital S.
Yeah.
But what that does is it actually portrays the functioning aspects of our state. Most people just look national. The people that look local, they're going to be concerned with school choice, tax credit, and they're going to be concerned with Medicaid expansion. It's like, okay, those are just 2 issues. We have billions and billions of dollars in our budget. What are the things that you feel like people don't understand that the Idaho government is getting after successfully or could do more successfully, either way?
Well, what I like that you kind of teased, well, if you talk to people who know, first of all, running a state is very different than running a city.
Yes.
It's very different than running a county. And what I love about your show is you're getting guests on from all 3 of those things. Because I do think perspective-wise, when I ran for governor, I went around and I interviewed almost every mayor I could. It was up over 100. I can't remember the exact number. It's like 113 different mayors. I went to their city hall. I sat down with them and I had the same questions. What's going well? What are your biggest challenges? How could state government ever help you in the city, right? And I had wonderful experience doing that. But I gained an incredible respect for the mayors around our state right now. And then you would go to the mayor of, a little teeny town that's got its own problems, and you'd be interviewing Mayor Simison or someone with varies in problems. But that was good. Then you go to counties. Well, you think of growth right now. And Ada County with their commissioners and Canyon County and how they're running. Elmore County you brought up already. You got the cities in the middle and that inherent conflict that's going on at all times for utilities and growth and boundaries and borders and how all this thing is going to go. Water, I mean, it's a constant thing. Well, where else? What other avenue are you going to, as a listener, are you going to get educated on how cities interact with counties and how counties? Then you got ACHD here. You're talking to all of them. Then you go to the state, right? In a big state, and we're really 3 states, until you really start traveling it. I mean, you got Eastern Idaho that is very different. You kind of got this transition zone through the Magic Valley, and then you go to North Idaho, and they're very distinct populations. Right. They have different economies. They do things differently. And you've got Governor Little and his team, and then you got the legislature trying to pass legislation that fits kind of this very unique population centers we have. That's complicated, Matt. And then you've got all the other organizations that are self-interested trying to do business in a state like ours. And so there's so many people to talk to. So I guess your question is, what are the issues people want to listen to? I think all of that. You need to know, what are the pressures on your city you live? What are the pressures on your counties and the valleys around you? What are the state things? Education. How are we doing on public education? What's the implications of vouchers and privatizing some of this? What's K-12 and higher education? What's going on with, there's just so much with education. And then healthcare is the issue of the day, right?
It really is.
Healthcare, I mean, I could talk about this forever. and I do, but what went wrong? And how do we get out of it? And what are we going to do? And you got these families, and that was my life living in the as an ER doc, you are on the front lines of humanity. You are, and I did night shifts for 10 years. That's the front line. It's the trench. And so you see the problems and you see the solutions and you see good people trying to do it. And then you see the self-interests, which are all over, especially in healthcare, like who's going to grab the dollars and how they're going to go. And now you get 20 years down the road now from where we were when there was probably a solution. Now you're like, okay, now what are we going to do? So that's healthcare. Then you take, where does our budget go? Look at corrections. Look at just the Department of Corrections, how many people we put away, recidivism, how are we doing our county jails? How
many people we ship out of the state
how many ship
and that costs us more because we can house them to serve their time here cheaper than we can in Utah, but we don't have enough beds here. So we're paying a premium to ship our inmates out of the state.
We're like halfway down the list, but my point is all of these topics are things that I want to know. I want to know. Yeah. I want to hear from the guests you're having on about all of these different things, and I want to understand what their constraints are. And you say, well, why do you want to know? Well, I want to be an involved citizen. Are there things that I can do to help? Because I love this place.
Right.
My kids are here. My grandkids are here. I want it to be magical for them. I want them to live the American dream. I want them to have the same opportunities I had. And how do we protect it? Well, how do you even have an opinion if you're not educated on it?
Listen, you will get no disagreement from me. Here's a pressure that I've realized as of late is really screwing up some things of our separation. So when you talk about counties, you talk about cities, you talk about state, we elect people based on districts, right? For this at the state level. So you got somebody, in a bunch of different districts in Canyon County, Ada County, all over the place. Those people get elected and they get shot up to the state government. And generally, the local municipalities are supposed to deal with their local issues, right? However, because we elect them locally, you have constituents who are like, I have this localized problem. You're my state rep. Go fix it. And then all of a sudden there's this pressure on these people that are supposed to be considering statewide issues to start addressing localized issues. And you have this big conflict of like, wait, why the hell are the people at the state level telling this 10,000 population town what the town should be doing or writing laws that will only affect one or two towns in the state of Idaho? Like, you have these pressures. And again, what are you supposed to not listen to your constituents? I got elected. Of course I'm going to listen to this person, but then you're bringing like a sledgehammer when you're trying to tap in a little nail for a picture.
It's one of the, as I get older and probably gain some wisdom, it used to drive me nuts. Like, what is behind that bill? Which both ways.
Who's like, this benefiting?
Like
who's motivated?
This? And what I've found as I'm maybe getting a little older, and I don't know, is I'm always like, okay, I'm going to dig into the story behind the reason. And I've found that there's actually some pretty legitimate stuff.
Sure.
Back at the local level, right? So you may have an issue in Burley, Idaho, where there's a local issue that their elected representative is saying, you go fix this for us. And so then you get appreciation because at least you walk back to the table and go, oh, I get it. I get how that's their issue. And conversely, you see some state legislation where we may say, okay, we're passing this legislation for the great state of Ada, but how is it going to affect Owyhee County? How is it going to affect, Franklin? You start thinking about
the highway district bill from last year.
Exactly.
And now you have rural communities that can't upgrade the sidewalks in front of schools because the upgrading of the sidewalk does not expressly benefit vehicles.
And then you take one more, not to complicate it further, I think what I heard when I was on the road a lot was then you have national mandates from EPA or whatever that then drift down to the state, that then go to the local municipalities, and you had these EPA regulations on phosphate discharge from their local water, sewer, and treatment plant that had millions of dollars up. And so you think about how all these things play together. It's complicated. It's really complicated, which is why I think there needs to be the better data we get. I wish we studied things better. I wish we had a better way of when an issue came up and you said, okay, what are the financial implications? What are the downstream implications? And I wish that we could almost do a report to the legislature a little bit better to say, hey, here's what we think. And I think they do the best they can, but oftentimes we just don't know. We don't know what the implications will be. And because we're rural and we're urban, you think of even education, some of the changes. I mean, how are some of these bills going to affect our little rural districts? I worry about that, but I get it on school choice. That was the hard one for me because when I went in running for governor, I thought, man, I've got a strong opinion on choice, a really strong opinion. And
what was your opinion?
I love competition. I thought, oh gosh, if we could have competition here and you could really go anywhere you wanted to go and the dollars followed the students, it's going to be awesome. It's going to make everything better. And then I visit 87 school districts and sit with all those superintendents, and you could absolutely argue no one has the guts to just say we're going to consolidate because they need to consolidate. Absolutely. But right now they're not consolidating. You'll talk about local control. But then you go out there and you go, okay, if they lose even a little bit of funding and they've got this, it's not going to work in rural districts. It's not. And so I worry about it just because of that. And I think you kind of pass a bill that's kind of one size fits all, and how that trickles out to everybody really worries me. And I think that's a legitimate questions that people are asking. How's this going to affect? And that's a very different question. That is choice good? Is choice cause, improvement in competition, which improves how we do our things with our kids? So it's a complicated one. And anyone that says it's easy is just blind to the realities of the diversity in a state like ours.
Yeah, but I do think one of the big, and yes to everything you're saying, one of the big problems that I see is that when people like me move here, right? And let's be clear, like people moving from, the cow states, what's so funny? People freaked out when Governor Little said that recently. He said that in 24 on my show. I had a clip where he's like, the cow states, California, Oregon, Washington. And I interrupted. I was like, moo. It's like, I didn't put that clip out. But the point is, you have people that are moving in, but all they experience of Idaho is like Ada County, the great state of Ada. They're here and they don't. So then they get pulled into different bills or different political movements. Like, have you been to Burley? Have you ever been to Salmon? Like Riggins, Rigby, any of these ring a bell at all? And they're like, no, I don't even know what that is. Like, right. You're advocating for policies that will affect these people and you're not. You haven't gained the perspective, and that's a larger and larger portion of the voting block within, Ada and Canyon County.
It is, and it's going to continue, right? Because you're going to have more concentration here, more diluting of the rural, and we've got to protect both. That's the challenge, and that's why I think. I'm a huge fan and friend of Brad Little and what he's done. He has been around long enough. He knows this state, and his heart is good. When I talk about people that are there genuinely to do the best for Idaho families, or whether you're here for clicks or whatever else your thing is, he's there for families, right? So I like the wisdom that comes with that, because I think that's always going to be the balance. And how do you study it out, and what are the effects, and as the best you can. And I know it's never perfect, but funding formulas. They're just, great intentions, but how is that going to work all the way through the system?
Right. Listen, I know it's working day. This is actually technically your show, so I don't want to terminate, but I know you got a lot going on. We got our interviews lined up on Monday. We have the three individuals, Lieutenant Governor Bedke, Speaker Moyle, Pro Tem Anthon, right? Yeah. Is there one thing that you're hoping to ask each of them as we come into it?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure, because I know them all, that we're going to get some authentic. I love them all because I think they're really authentic, and I want to let's see what's on their heart and their mind. That's for me. I don't know about you. I was going to ask you this. The other thing I love about you is I wish that, the education you get in a week on issues. It's a lot. So you're going to probably have some really good questions for them on specifics. I think this budget deal is, everyone's making a really big deal about it, but I think it's going to be a big bargaining chip in a lot of ways. I think it's interesting because, there's only two legislators that are still here that were part of the Great Recession, which wasn't that long ago.
And that's Speaker Moyle and who?
It's, so I guess you could probably qualify Bedke.
Oh,
but
those are the two.
But that's it. And then the rest of them all, that was the last time Brad will say that they really had to say, okay, what are we going to do? But this is nothing like that. But I think they're used to spending money in excess and saying, how are we going to cut taxes, or what are the new programs we're going to do? So it'll be an interesting session from the budget. And then I think because it's an election year, what's coming out? What are going to be the crazy things? I think we're tracking a lot. I can't wait to hear some of their answers there. But I think they're going to be super authentic and real and tell us what they're thinking.
I hope so. It'll be great. Listen, man, I can't wait. This theoretically your show, but is there anything you want to hit here at the end?
No, thanks.
I'm just going to keep talking to you. That's the problem.
I've appreciated your friendship. I appreciate what you do. I would just, for my audience, man, if you're not listening to the Ranch podcast, make it part of your morning routine. And Matt, uniquely, it's energy. And it is
a lot of energy.
It's great information if you're an Idahoan and you really care about this place. So
God bless him, man. Well, listen, I appreciate you and your support. I can't wait for Monday. It'll be great.
Fun. Thanks, man. Bye.